Xia Liam and I were the envy of everyone in the capital city, the perfect couple, until the day I gave birth, when the bleeding wouldn't stop. The Xia Liam who loved me to the bone never showed up. Only after the midwife took away the stillborn did he come in with a bowl of poison. Rest easy on your way, Xianxia. Only if you die can Alma rightfully become the mistress of Xia Manor. Turns out, the one Xia Liam loved was my half-sister, Xianxia. When I opened my eyes again, I had actually been reborn to the day before our wedding. When Xia Liam fell off his horse, I was supposed to rush forward, but this time I didn't move a muscle and watched him slam hard into the ground. In this life, we go our separate ways, but when I really gave them my blessing and planned to marry someone else, Xia Liam knelt in the rain outside my room, voice hoarse, Mila, heaven gave me another life, our fate isn't over yet. I died on the day when the peach blossoms were in full bloom. The moment the poison slid down my throat, I saw Xianxia walk out from behind the screen and affectionately link arms with Xia Liam. The toddler in her arms sweetly called Xia Liam daddy. Don't worry, sister, I'll hold down the title of Lady Xia for you just fine. Xianxia smiled syrup, sweet, just like always. As the poison tore through my guts in searing pain, I shut my eyes, filled with bitter hatred. Miss, what are you spacing out for? The young Marquisia's horse is spooked. A familiar voice snapped me back to reality. I jolted my eyes open. Made by he was anxiously tugging at my sleeve. Not far off, Xia Liam's black horse had suddenly panicked, now charging around wildly in a frenzy. I dug my nails hard into my palm. Only when I felt the sting of pain did I confirm this wasn't a dream. In my past life, it was this exact moment. Just as Xia Liam was about to be thrown off his horse, I used my soft body to cushion his fall. The price. Hoof slammed into my chest. 3 ribs snapped. Every rainy day after, the pain was unbearable. Meanwhile, Xia Liam only blacked out for a moment, suffering nothing more than a small scrape. That life-saving act earned me his deep and devoted proposal, only to send me straight to the underworld. But now, I stood motionless in place. Miss, by he was so anxious she was stomping her feet. Why panic? I watched Xia Liam crash to the ground just 3 steps away with a heavy thud. The young Marquisia is blessed. He'll be just fine. Xia Liam's right leg was twisted at an unnatural angle. His whole body curled up on the ground in agony. The scene instantly broke into chaos. People rushed over in a flurry of limbs. Brother Jingyao. A shrill female voice pierced through the crowd. The illegitimate sister Xianxia threw herself beside him, tears falling instantly. Are you okay? Are you hurt anywhere? But Xia Liam's gaze pierced through the crowd, landing straight on my face. There was shock and confusion in those eyes, but not a trace of affection. I looked back at him coldly, then turned and walked away. At that moment, we both knew, we had been reborn together. The bitterness of that poisoned soup from the moment before death in our past life seemed to linger on the tip of my tongue again. Xia Liam's hand holding the bowl was steady, and he showed no hesitation in forcing the poison down my throat. He blamed me for blocking Xianxia's path, for stealing the position of mistress of the Xia family. In the end, even our unborn child became a stepping stone he used to pave the way for Xianxia. Sister, how could you do this? Xianxia had caught up at some point, eyes red as she tugged at my sleeve. Brother Jingyao fell so hard, how can you not even care? I shook off her hand with such force that she stumbled backward. What does any of this have to do with you? She stood frozen, probably never having seen this side of me before. After all, the old Xianxia had always been gentle and accommodating to this illegitimate sister. Footsteps came from behind. Xia Liam, supported by guards, walked over. He stopped in front of Xianxia, standing protectively like a guardian. I couldn't help but find it funny. If Xia Liam knew it was Xianxia who caused him to fall off the horse, what kind of expression would he have? Xianxia, why didn't you save me just now? Xia Liam's voice carried anger. I looked at his pale face and suddenly smiled. An unmarried woman should observe propriety. If I recklessly made contact, wouldn't it ruin young Marquisia's reputation? His pupils shrank abruptly, like he'd heard something unbelievable. Yeah, in my past life. Forget about him falling off his horse. Even just a frown from him would make me anxious for half a day. But now, I don't care at all. Since he's so in love with Xianxia, of course I should help them get together. After all, a fake gentleman and a fragrant little white lotus are truly a match made in heaven. Xia Liam broke his leg and lay in bed unable to move. Even the imperial physician was at a loss. Only saying whether he could stand again was up to fate. The news quickly spread throughout the capital city. When father heard about it, he flew into a rage and smashed a teacup on the ground the moment he got home. Shards of porcelain scattered and sliced a bloody gash across the back of my hand. Hugo, Do you realize your mistake? He pointed at me, his beard trembling with fury. Young Marquis Xia fell off his horse in public, and you just stood there watching. I lowered my eyes, my voice calm. Father, I did nothing wrong. Insolence. Shen father slammed the table, his eyes blazing with even more anger. The Xia family is a powerful noble clan, and Xia Liam is the Empress Dowager's own nephew. You dared to stand by and do nothing. If he ends up crippled, how will our Shen family explain this? I touched the wound on the back of my hand, feeling a chill in my heart. Is father afraid the Xia family will blame us, or afraid we can secure this marriage alliance? Shen father's face changed abruptly, clearly not expecting me to talk back like this. What kind of attitude is this? All these years I've carefully raised you just so you could marry into a noble family and bring glory to the Shen family. And now you, father. I cut him off, my palm gripping so tightly it hurt. If it's just about clinging to power, your daughter has a better option. Shen father was stunned, his anger easing a bit. What are you trying to say? Grand General who guards the nation, Xiao Che. I raised my head to meet his gaze, voice firm. I'm willing to marry him. As soon as I said that, Shen father took a half step back in shock. What nonsense. General Xiao has the fate of a cursed star. Noble women avoid him like the plague. And you, though General Xiao's fate may be ominous, he commands great military power and is deeply trusted by His Majesty. In terms of influence, he far surpasses young Marquis Xia. I spoke slowly. If the Shen family can join with him by marriage, that would be true glory, wouldn't it? Shen father's brow furrowed, clearly weighing the pros and cons. But General Xiao has brought death to 3 wives. Are you really sure about this? I gave a slight nod and curled my lips into a faint smile. Cursed star, brought death to 3 wives. My life, clawed back from hell, has long been tougher than any. Cursed star, I've made up my mind. I lowered my face, hiding the coldness in my eyes. As long as it benefits the Shen family, I won't hesitate. Shen father stared at me for a while, then finally gritted his teeth. Fine, since you're so determined, I'll have someone send a message to the general's manor. But remember, this is the path you chose yourself. No matter what happens in the future, you can't blame anyone else. Of course, I replied. Shen father sighed. Tomorrow, go visit his lordship the Marquis at Xia Manor, at least to fulfill the formalities. Understood. After Shen father left, he quickly brought ointment to treat the wound on the back of my hand. Miss, are you really going to marry General Xiao? I heard he didn't dare finish her sentence. I chuckled. Heard he digs out people's eyeballs to go with his drink. Or that you can hear women's screams from his manor every night. He was so frightened she knocked over the medicine box. They're just rumors. If he really brings doom to his wives, I'll make sure to find you a safe place before I die. Tui, miss, don't say such unlucky things. I picked up the fallen porcelain bottle and handed it to Bai He, my eyes slightly warm. In my previous life, Bai He was beaten to death by Shen Elma's people while trying to protect me. Her body was dumped in the mass grave mound and picked clean by wild dogs. By then I had already been forced to swallow poison and didn't even have the strength to collect her remains. Silly girl, this time I'll definitely protect you. I wiped the corner of my eye, my voice a little hoarse. Bai He stared at me in a daze, her eyes instantly turning red. Alright, time for the medicine. I pulled back my thoughts and reached out my hand. We're going to Xia Manor tomorrow. Gotta let them see that I, Shen Mila, am doing just fine. The familiar grand gates of Xia Manor still looked as imposing as ever. In my past life, I stepped through them countless times with excitement, only to be carried out in a flimsy coffin in the end. My hand unconsciously brushed over the flat area of my lower belly, where a tiny life once grew, but in the end, all I got was the midwife's cold words, stillborn, and a tiny blue body that was whisked away before I could even take a look. Coming back today, every step I take treads over the corpses of my past life. The maid guiding me brought me to the door of Xia Liam's room. Before I even stepped in, a sweet and clingy voice floated out, just the right amount of sob and concern in it. Brother Jingyao, bear with it a bit, the medicine's bitter, but the imperial doctor said you have to take it on time if you want your leg to heal faster. It was Shanalma. She always looked like some pitiful, understanding flower. I let out a cold laugh and pushed the door open. The room was filled with the smell of medicine. Xia Liam was leaning against the bedhead, his right leg wrapped in thick bandages. Shen Mila, you still dare to show up? When he saw me, a flash of complex emotion passed through his eyes. Then he furrowed his brows tightly. Shen Alma whipped her head around, a hint of smugness hidden in her eyes. Sister, you're here. Father asked me to check on his lordship the Marquis. I placed the tonic on the table and spoke calmly. the thought counts. His lordship should rest well. Wait. Xia Liam suddenly pushed himself up. I have something to say to Miss Shen in private. Shen Alma bit her lip and refused to leave until Xia Liam coaxed her for a while, and only then did she reluctantly step out. As soon as the door closed, Xia Liam's expression changed immediately. Shen Mila, in our past life you used the favor of saving my life to force me to marry you. If you dare pull anything again in this life, what? Poison me to death again. My voice was ice cold. The veins on Xia Liam's temple twitched. Since you've been reborn, you should understand how good Alma is. If it weren't for your meddling in the last life, things wouldn't have ended up the way they did. I thought my heart had already turned cold and hard, but it still throbbed with pain in that moment. To save him, I had 3 ribs crushed under a horse's hooves, but in his eyes, it was all just unnecessary meddling, and he didn't know that the one he cherished most, Shen Alma, was the true culprit behind his disgraceful fall from the horse. To marry into Xia Manor with a clear conscience, Shen Alma had orchestrated a perfect show. I just didn't expect I'd rush out without a second thought, turning her carefully laid scheme into my own wedding dress. Looking back now, how ridiculous. Young Marquis Xia wasn't wrong, so I'm actually doing quite well. No broken ribs, still able to walk around just fine. Xia Liam's expression froze. In our past life, I wronged you. In this life, if you behave and become a concubine, I might just spare your life. I almost laughed out loud. When he made me swallow poison in our past life, he used the same kind of condescending tone. You're joking, young Marquis Xia. In this life, I've no plans to step foot into Xia Manor. Xia Liam's face darkened, sneering coldly. You think you have a choice? I've already sent someone to propose at Shen Manor. In 3 days, you and Alma will both enter the household. You've got quite the appetite, young Marquis Xia. I sneered. Marrying 2 sisters. Aren't you afraid you'll choke? Shen Mila. Xia Liam slammed the bed, jarring his injured leg, his face going pale with pain. Don't push your luck, or I've got ways to make you wish you were dead. I looked at his twisted face without a word, turned, and walked away. As soon as I opened the door, I saw Shen Alma pressed against it, eavesdropping. When she saw me come out, she quickly stepped back 2 paces. Sister, I know you have resentment in your heart, but Liam and I truly love each other. Don't worry, I won't fight you for him. I smiled faintly. That Lady Xia title, you can have it. Joy flashed across Shen Alma's face, with a faint hint of disdain underneath. When we walked out of Xia Manor, he followed behind me, looking deeply worried. Miss, what do we do now? I walked lightly, unconcerned. If he wants to marry us both, he still needs to see if the General's Manor agrees. Early this morning, Father already received a reply from the General's Manor. The set wedding date is exactly 3 days from now. When we got back to Shen Manor, sure enough, we saw servants from Xia Manor blocking the entrance with over a dozen boxes of betrothal gifts. The head steward stood with hands on hips, looking utterly cocky. When he saw me, the steward gave a fake smile and cupped his hands. Eldest Miss Shen, our young Marquis said these betrothal gifts, you're taking them whether you want them or not. 3 days from now, both you and second Miss Shen will belong to the Xia family. I raised my hand and lifted the lid of the frontmost box. Inside was a wedding dress. The embroidered pattern was 100 birds paying homage to the phoenix, and the gold thread stabbed at my eyes. Suddenly, I remembered the wedding dress from my past life. Xia Liam said red was too gaudy and had Shen Alma change it to lotus pink. As a result, on the wedding day, everyone said I looked like a concubine. I closed my eyes and shut the box. The Xia family's betrothal gifts are too much for our Shen family to accept. Kindly have the steward take them back as they are. The steward scoffed. Our young Marquis is of noble status and willing to marry both you and second Miss. This is a tremendous honor. The young Marquis Xia can't even stand up anymore, and he's still talking about honor. The butler's face suddenly changed, and he snapped. Miss Shen, don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. I couldn't be bothered to argue with him, so I raised my voice and said, go back and tell your master that I, Shen Mila, would rather die than enter the Xia Manor. With that, I turned around, ready to head inside. The butler's face went ashen, just about to explode, when a suppressed angry shout came from behind. Shen Mila. Xia Liam was being supported by guards as he stood not far away, his face gloomy. He probably couldn't stay put in the manor, and actually came to Shen Manor himself. His eyes were locked onto me. What did you just say? I stopped walking, and my voice was clear enough for the surrounding onlookers to hear. I said, the young Marquis Xia can barely walk now, yet still wants to marry 2 ladies in 3 days. Isn't that a bit too greedy? Xia Liam's face instantly turned the color of pig liver. Shen Mila, You've got some nerve. I lowered my eyes slightly, my tone carrying just the right touch of regret. I'm just feeling sorry for the Xia family. If the young Marquis's leg doesn't heal, he might not even be able to have children in the future. A daughter of the Shen family can't possibly marry just to become a living widow. As the words fell, Xia Liam's expression had already darkened to the point where it looked like it could drip water. Shen Almo looked up and glared at me, as if wronged. Sister, how could you say something so mean? Brother Jingyao is just temporarily unable to move. The imperial doctor said he'll definitely recover. Aren't you afraid of divine retribution for cursing him like that? The way she acted made the bystanders, who didn't know the full story, nod repeatedly, their eyes toward me filled with blame. I glanced at her blandly and sneered. If you care so much for the young Marquis, how about seriously investigating why the horse was spooked that day? After all, enough. Xia Liam clenched his fists in fury and cut me off through gritted teeth. Shen Mila, you really have no sense of self-preservation. How dare you humiliate me in public? He shook off the guards and hobbled over with his cane. Don't think that just because you got to live another life, you can change your fate. I'm telling you, in this life, I can still make you wish you were dead. Xia Liam's eyes were filled with viciousness as he raised his hand and grabbed my throat. Just as I was about to break free, a deep and cold male voice came from the back of the crowd. Is the young Marquis Xia planning to snatch away this general's fiancé right in front of him? The crowd parted, and a tall figure in a dark brocade robe walked forward slowly, the sword at his waist swaying gently with each step. His face was stern, with sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes, carrying a naturally commanding presence. It was none other than the legendary, doomed star General Xiao Ezra. Xia Liam yanked his hand back like it was scalded, forcing a bow. General Xiao, this is a private matter between Miss Shen and me. Xiao Ezra didn't even spare him a glance and walked straight up to me, his slender fingers gently lifting my injured hand. Does it hurt? He asked softly, a flicker of emotion in his eyes I couldn't quite read. I froze on the spot, not knowing how to react for a moment. Across both past and present lives, ever since my mother passed away, he was the first person to show me any care. I shook my head. It doesn't hurt anymore. Xiao Ezra's cold features softened a little. Miss Shen, the wedding date is set. I'm here to take you to try on the wedding dress. That sentence was like a thunderclap, silencing everyone present. Xia Liam stared wide-eyed in disbelief. What wedding date? Shen Mila, who are you marrying? I smiled faintly and gave Xiao Ezra a slight curtsy. Thank you, General Xiao, for coming personally. Xiao Ezra was tall, and the shadow he cast completely enveloped me. And these are. He glanced at the betrothal gifts brought by Xia Manor, frowning slightly. Just some meaningless things. I said softly. General Xiao, please wait a moment. I'll go with you to try on the dress. Xia Liam suddenly burst out in fury. Shen Mila, how dare you go behind my back and marry someone else? Xiao Ezra finally turned to Xia Liam, his voice icy. Young Marquis Xia, my wedding day is in 3 days. If I see you pestering my fiancé again, he tapped the hilt of his sword lightly with his fingertips. I wouldn't mind wiping out the Xia family. Xia Liam's face shifted between green and white, but he didn't dare utter a single word in protest. Although Xiao Ezra's fate was said to be ominous, he was the most powerful minister of the current dynasty. Even the emperor had to show him deference. Let's go. Xiao Ezra naturally took my hand and led me away in front of everyone. His palm was broad and warm, nothing like the cold and heartless man the rumors spoke of. The general's manor's carriage was spacious and comfortable. Xiao Ezra sat across from me with his eyes closed, resting. Miss Shen doesn't seem afraid of me. He suddenly opened his eyes, his gaze deep. My heart skipped a beat as I clutched my sleeve tighter. Why would the general agree to marry me? Xiao Ezra's gaze fell on my face, surprisingly tinged with gentle affection. Then why would Miss Shen agree to marry me? We looked at each other for a moment, then simultaneously looked away. We've arrived. Xiao Ezra was the first to break the silence. The crimson lacquered gates of the general's manor bore a golden plaque, exuding grandeur, but the scenery inside was different from what I imagined. There was no eerie gloom, only refined elegance throughout. Upon entering the inner chamber, a bright red wedding robe was laid out on the table. Unlike the flamboyant 100 birds paying homage to the phoenix at Xia Manor, this robe was embroidered with twin lotus blossoms on one stem. The stitches are fine and dense, clearly worth a fortune at a glance. While trying it on, the embroidery girl stood by adjusting it carefully, constantly praising. Miss, your figure is perfect. This wedding dress suits you so well. The general sure has a sharp eye. I looked at myself in the bronze mirror. My features had grown noticeably sharper. After changing into my regular clothes, I came out to find Xiao Ezra sitting at the stone table in the courtyard. drinking tea. Seeing me, he set down the teacup. Does it fit? I nodded. Thank you for the effort, General. I sat down across from him, eyeing him inquisitively. Xianxia let out a low chuckle. I know you've got a lot of questions right now. After the wedding banquet, I'll explain everything to you. I was a bit surprised, but Xianxia had already looked away. When I returned to the Shen manor, the betrothal gifts had already been carried away, leaving a complete mess behind. Just as I entered the main hall, I saw Xiaoliam sitting in a chair, face full of rage. When he saw me, he slammed the table, making the tea in the cup spill over. Shenmila, are you really going to marry that cursed star? I answered calmly. The wedding date is set, and the invitation from the general's manor has already been sent out. Does young Marquis Xia think I can still back out? Aren't you afraid he'll curse you to death? Xiaoliam's voice twisted with a hint of glee. His last 3 wives, none of them lasted more than 6 months. If you marry him, you'll be the 4th grade by spring. When you come crying and begging me later, I'll just let you see how loving Alma and I are, and how we treat that bastard of yours who hasn't even been born yet. Xiaoliam, I cut him off sharply, my fingertips digging deep into my palm. He actually used even the child from my past life who never got to be born, just to humiliate me. Xiaoliam seemed amused by my reaction. What? Hit a sore spot. If you regret it now, I can still carry you into Xia Manor 3 days from now. I took a deep breath, forcing down the surge of hatred. Young Marquis Xia overthinks things. I'd rather die under a curse than take another step into Xia Manor. Xiaoliam suddenly stood up. Shenmila, you think Xianxia is some great guy. His hands are stained with more blood than you've drunk water. So what? I stared straight into his eyes. At least he wouldn't poison his own wife to death with his own hands. Xiaoliam was choked by my words, a flicker of panic flashing through his eyes. Sis, Shenalma rushed in from outside the door, tears welling up. Don't be mad at brother Jingyao. He's doing it for your own good. For my own good. I looked at her and suddenly laughed. Then I wish you two true lovers a happy ending. Shenalma was stunned by my sudden blessing, then forced out 2 more tears. Sis, why like this? We're still sisters after all. Sisters. I cut her off and slowly walked closer. Do you deserve that title? Shenalma took a step back, panic flashing in her eyes. Sister, what do you mean by that? I looked at Shenalma pretending to be innocent, only feeling it was ironic, starting from when she secretly bribed the coachman, watched as my ribs were trampled and broken yet pretended to cry, then held the child to flaunt her position as Lady Xia right before my death. The word sisters had long been shattered to dust, not even a trace left. I leaned in slightly, lowered my voice and said slowly, tell me, if Xiaoliam knew that his crippled leg was thanks to you, what would he do? Shen Alma's face turned pale with a whoosh, her lips trembling. Seeing her like this, the hatred pent up in my heart eased a little. Xiaoliam frowned and looked over. Alma, what's wrong? Shen Alma forced out a faint smile. Nothing. Sister said I don't look good in the wedding dress. I just felt a bit sad. Xiaoliam immediately coaxed. Alma looks good in anything. I coldly watched this perfect couple, pulled out a letter from my sleeve and placed it on the table. Young Marquis Xia, perhaps you should take a look at this. Xiaoliam suspiciously picked up the letter, the color draining from his face little by little. The letter clearly detailed how Shen Alma bribed the coachman, drugged the fodder, and startled Xiaoliam's horse. This is impossible. Xiaoliam suddenly looked up. How could Alma ever harm me? How is that impossible? I said coldly. She wanted you to fall off the horse and get hurt, so you'd feel grateful and let her marry into Xia Manor. Shen Alma trembled all over and dropped to her knees with a thud. Brother Jingyao, don't believe her. She must have forged it. Alma. Xiaoliam tried to help her up but froze when he looked down at the letter in his hand. I let out a sneer and pulled out a jade pendant from my sleeve. Then what about this? This is your personal item. How did it end up in the groom's hands? When Shen Alma saw the jade pendant, she looked like she'd been struck by lightning and collapsed to the ground. Xiaoliam gripped the jade pendant tightly, his knuckles turning white. Alma, you. Shen Alma suddenly lunged forward and hugged Xiaoliam's leg. Brother Jingyao, let me explain. It's not like that. Enough. Xiaoliam shoved her away, his eyes full of disappointment. He couldn't be more familiar with the pattern on the jade pendant. It was the token he gave his savior when he was 13. Back then, he was in danger at the hunting ground and a masked girl had saved him. Later, when he saw the jade pendant in Shen Alma's hands, he thought his savior was Shen Alma. But now, the one who caused his broken leg was also Shen Alma, and she even used the token he gave as collateral. The roaring disappointment and anger in his heart tormented Xiaoliam like torture. The pattern on the jade pendant looks too familiar. It's clearly mine. So why was it with you? As soon as I finished speaking, Xiaoliam's gaze locked onto me intensely. What did you say? I looked at his face turning pale in an instant and said coldly, back then at the hunting ground, you had a high fever that wouldn't go away. I stayed with you until the imperial doctor arrived. Before leaving, you stuffed this jade pendant into my hand and said you would repay me handsomely someday. Xiaoliam immediately refuted. That's impossible. The one who saved me was Xianxia. I looked at Xianxia, my voice calm. The day after I returned, the jade pendant was stolen. I thought it was taken by a servant at home to sell for money, but turns out, it was you who stole it. Xianxia's body trembled violently, her lips quivering so much she couldn't say a single word. Xiaoliam looked like he was struck by lightning, accidentally knocking over the teacup. When he turned to me, his gaze was already shattered. That's impossible. If it was really you who saved me, why didn't you say so earlier? I did. I looked at him calmly. In our past life, after you fell off your horse, I told you we'd met when we were kids. You said. I mimicked his tone from back then. That kind of clinging story is just pathetic. Xiaoliam ran his fingers through his hair, letting out a cry of anguish. I knew what he was thinking. How in our past life he treated his real savior. How he personally forced that bowl of poison down my throat. Xianxia suddenly screamed like a madwoman. Brother Jingyao, don't listen to her nonsense. That jade pendant is mine. Xiaoliam lifted his eyes to look at her, bloodshot and furious. What happened that year at the hunting ground? Only me and a person who saved my life knew the details. I've been tricked by you, you venomous woman. My whole damn life. Xianxia's face went pale like paper in an instant. I coldly watched this dog drama unfold, my heart completely chilled. In my past life, I died never knowing that Xiaoliam's deep feelings for Xianxia started because of such a ridiculous misunderstanding. Hugo. Xiaoliam turned to me, his voice turning into a plea. I didn't know. I really didn't know. So what if you know now? I said softly. Can it bring my unborn child back to life? Can it bring back the Shinmila from the past life? Those words stabbed into him like a knife. Xiaoliam opened his mouth, but no sound came out. Only big fat tears rolled down from his eyes. Xianxia suddenly lunged at me like a madwoman. You crazy bitch spouting nonsense. If it weren't tea for you sticking your nose in. Pa. A loud slap cut her off. Xiaoliam's hand was still raised in midair, his eyes blazing with rage. Say one more word about her. I dare you. Xianxia clutched her face and collapsed to the ground, blood trickling from the corner of her mouth. Before she could scream again, the guards had already dragged her away. Xiaoliam struggled to walk toward me, but his injured leg gave out, and he stumbled, nearly falling. Hugo, in my past life, I was a bastard. I was blind, he rasped, choked with sobs. This life, I'll make it up to you. I'll give you the position of Madame Xia. No need. I stepped back to widen the distance. 3 days from now, I will belong to the general's manor. Between you and me, aside from the blood, deep hatred of our past lives, there's nothing else. Xiaoliam's eyes were filled with utter despair. Blood, deep hatred. Yeah, it's my debt to you and, I turned around and left, not wanting to spare him another glance. Hugo. Xiaoliam tried to catch up, but fell heavily to the ground. He ignored the pain, just fixating on my back. Are you truly this heartless? Heartless. My steps halted. I turned to look at him. Xiaoliam's face was filled with utter agony. If it were the me of my past life seeing this, I would have felt immense heartache, even throwing everything away to run back to him. But now, I just felt numb. Xiaoliam, I slowly spoke, my voice calm and rippleless. It was you who personally pushed me to a dead end. When you fed me poison in our past life, did you ever think of the word, heartless? Every word I said was like a heavy hammer, fiercely pounding Xiaoliam's heart. He lay on the ground, letting out stifled sobs. I didn't look at him again, turning to leave the main hall. Back at the courtyard, he had already packed up most of my dowry. Seeing me return, she quickly came to greet me. Miss, everything is ready. I nodded, my eyes falling on those familiar items. Most of my dowry in the previous life was taken by Xianxia under various pretexts. In the end, all I had with me was that thin coffin. In this life, I'm going to take these things with me and marry into the general's manor with dignity. For the next 2 days, the Shin manor was unusually quiet. Xianxia was confined and not allowed to step out of the Shin manor before my wedding. Xiaoliam never came again, but he often sent people to deliver many things. All of it was makeup and skincare stuff women use. Clearly, he'd put thought into it, but I didn't touch any of it. Just told he to pile it all outside the door like it was a heap of eyesore trash. Xiao Liam was probably trying to make up for something with these things, but he didn't get it. Some debts can never be repaid. The day before the wedding, it poured rain. He told me that Xiao Liam came by at noon and left behind a brocade box. I opened the brocade box and found a phoenix hairpin inside. The pearls on it were round and full, clearly worth a fortune at a glance. There was a "you" character carved into the body of the hairpin. Looks like he had it custom made. If it were my past life, I'd probably be bawling with emotion. But now, I just feel mocked. I handed the brocade box to Bai. Take it and pile it with the stuff outside the door. The rain didn't stop all day, knocking off a bunch of flower petals. I was combing my long hair in front of the bronze mirror when Bai suddenly whispered, "Miss, look." I looked over and saw a familiar figure standing under the corridor with an umbrella. It was Xiao Liam. He dragged his injured leg and came through the rain to the outside of my boudoir. Bai seemed a little nervous. "Miss, should I let him in?" "No need, let him stand there." The figure outside the window didn't move. Like a stone statue soaked by the rain, he seemed to want to come in, but was hesitating about something. The rain grew heavier. Xiao Liam's figure wavered slightly. His injured leg probably couldn't hold up anymore. Through the sound of rain came his hoarse voice, calling my name, over and over again, filled with endless regret and despair. Thud. Xiao Liam suddenly knelt straight down. Water splashed, and his thin figure looked especially pitiful in the rain. "Hugo, I beg you." His voice trembled. "As long as you forgive me, I'm willing to do anything." I sneered. "Xiao Liam, do you really think that just because you kneel, I'll soften?" He looked up, rain sliding down his cheeks, looking both miserable and pitiful. "No, I just want to atone." "Atone?" I shook my head lightly. "You can't afford it. When you poisoned me in our past life, did you think about the child in my belly? Did you think about the ribs I broke for you? Now you're kneeling here pretending to be deep in love. Don't you think it's laughable?" Xiao Liam's face was completely drained of color, and his injured leg scraping against the ground made him endure unbearable pain. "In my past life, I was blind and deceived by Shinalma, which led to you and the child getting hurt. Hugo, heaven gave me another life. This must mean our fate isn't over yet." I let out a cold laugh, my nails digging into my palm. Fate sounds more like a cursed bond to me. The rain outside the window poured even harder. Xiao Liam's robes were already soaked through, and his messy hair clung to his face. He looked up at me, eyes full of pleading. "Hugo, give me one more chance. I swear I'll treat you right in this life." I suddenly laughed. "Young Marquisia, you couldn't even recognize the person who saved your life. What's your oath worth?" "A few copper coins." Xiao Liam froze all over, then started trembling even harder. I stopped looking at him. Bai, close the window. "Hugo." Xiao Liam tried to lunge over but fell straight into the muddy water. A total mess. The window shut, cutting off his line of sight. Xiao Liam's sobs were drowned out by the thunder, growing fainter and fainter. The next morning, the rain stopped. I pushed open the window and saw Xiao Liam still kneeling where he was. His whole body looked about to collapse, his face pale as paper. He struggled to lift his head, his lips cracked and bleeding. "Hugo." I looked at him expressionlessly. "Young Marquisia, today is my wedding day, and you're kneeling here, trying to jinx me." He trembled all over, and the last bit of light in his eyes went out. I just wanted to scram. I spat out coldly. Xiao Liam finally couldn't hold on and collapsed heavily to the ground. The guards rushed forward to help him, but he shoved them away. He looked up at me, eyes filled with despair. "Shenmila, do you really hate me this much?" I let out a soft laugh and slowly closed the window. "Hate, you're not worth it." The lucky hour arrived, and the wedding procession from the general's manor came in grand style. Xiao Ezra was dressed in a bright red wedding robe, handsome like a deity. Amidst gasps of admiration, he dismounted and reached out to me. "Don't be afraid, I'm here," he said softly, his voice unbelievably gentle. Just those few simple words made my nose sting with emotion. I placed my hand in his, our fingers intertwining. Behind us, Xiao Liam was helped to his feet in a corner, his eyes fixed on our joined hands, filled with utter lifelessness. Xiao Ezra cast him a faint glance, the corners of his lips slightly curved. "Young Marquisia, your leg's still not healed. You'd better not stand too long." Xiao Liam gritted his teeth hard but couldn't say a single word. I held onto Xiao Ezra's arm and stepped into the bridal sedan chair without looking back. The wedding feast at the general's manor was bustling with excitement, and nearly all the high-ranking officials of the court were present. "The ceremony is complete." As the wedding matron sang out loud, I suddenly felt the world spin around me. Xiao Ezra actually scooped me up horizontally into his arms. "General, this is against protocol." the wedding matron exclaimed in shock. Xiao Ezra chuckled lowly. This general's rules are the rules. The whole hall erupted in an uproar, while I blushed quietly in his arms. In the bridal chamber, Xiao Ezra gently lifted my veil. There was a gentle smile in his eyes, totally different from the rumored cold-blooded and ruthless Calamity Star, wife. He called softly, his voice deep and soothing. This time around, I won't let anyone hurt you again. I jolted all over. General, you. Xiao Ezra looked me straight in the eyes. Actually, I've been reborn too. I stared at him in shock, eyes wide open. Xiao Ezra's voice was tender. At the Lantern Festival when you were 10, you gave me a piece of candy. I was an orphan since birth, and had just been beaten up. I was planning to jump into the river and end it all. But then I met you. You were scared stiff seeing me all covered in blood, yet you still gave me the only candy you had in your pocket. I froze, not expecting that boy from back then to have become the nation stabilizing general today. From that moment on, I swore to protect you for the rest of my life. Xiao Ezra's voice was low and firm. Too bad in the last life, I was off fighting wars, and when I came back, his voice choked up, my heart warmed, and I took his hand on my own. In this lifetime, we won't repeat the same mistakes. Outside the window, a bright moon hung high in the sky. Inside the room, candlelight painted a romantic glow. 3 months after the wedding, I found out I was pregnant. Xiao Ezra knelt beside the bed, carefully caressing my belly. We really have a baby. I nodded with a smile and handed him the pregnancy safeguarding prescription written by the imperial physician. The general is going to be a father. The news quickly spread throughout the capital city. The rumors that once called him a cursed star who would doom his wife and children collapsed on their own. He told me that after Xiaoliam found out, he smashed everything that could be smashed in the manor. Heard that young Marquis Xia's leg injury still hasn't healed. Now he even limps badly when walking. He curled her lip. Serves him right. Shen Elma's fate had also already been decided. Though Xiaoliam didn't kill her, he did destroy her reputation and sent her to a nunnery in the suburbs of the capital, never to leave for life. I gently stroked my still, flat belly, feeling utterly at peace. A sweet aroma of rose pastry drifted from behind, and I was pulled into a broad embrace. I turned my head with a smile. I just mentioned it in passing. The road to the southern part of the city is far. No need for you to make a trip, husband. But Xiao Ezra grinned and tapped my nose. If my lady wants it, I'll go even to the ends of the earth. Spring wind brushed by, and peach blossoms filled the air like a fluttering rain. My heart, though, was full of warmth. This time, I know I won't die again in a season of drifting flower rain.